Hey everybody, welcome to Board Online, Board Offline. Today we're bringing you another video from another channel. Today we've got the Legends of Nerdvana. This is a group of gamers working their way through a 3,000 game collection, and if I know gamers, probably adding a few to that number along the way. So if you want to see more from Legends of Nerdvana, be sure to check the link in the description below. And now let's get to the video.
Hello everyone, today we got to play The Dwarves, based on a novel by Markus
Heitz.
Whatever. Some person. Not really good at
57
names.
flavors or varieties.
Yeah, I don't know. But before we get into that, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell because we're cool. Also, notice the new shirts. They're going to be loaded up on our website so you can purchase them if you want. I think we'll also be giving a few away at Gen Con if you get to play with us and if you beat us in a game. So we'll be doing some opening gaming sessions there at a hotel. If you want more information, just let us know or search us out on our social media page. We will be more than happy.
But not in our hotel room. Somewhere in the hotel.
Yeah.
We're not gonna have people come back to our room and you leave them in a tub with their kidneys missing or anything. Unless that's what you want.
Why are you trying to ruin my plan? Now, we're not serial killers. Well,
maybe
I'm not.
Rob. I'm not sure about Rob.
I'm not. The rest of these folks, I don't know. All right. So before we get into it, tell us more about the game.
I shouldn't cover it up, should I?
No.
All right. So The Dwarves was released in 2012, but I believe the U.S. release was in 2016. It has a rating on Board Game Geek of 6.9. It's 2437 overall right now. The designers were Michael Palm and Lucas Zach. Artist is Jarek Nacone. And publisher is Pegasus Spiel. It is out of print. I can't seem to find it, at least in most of the stores. It is on the geek market though. Right now somebody's selling it for $15 for the base plus some of the expansion stuff, which is actually a steal.
That's a steal. A steal.
Yeah, because we got it as a bundle at our last Gen Con. We were buying a bunch of stuff, I think, at the last minute, and this was one of them. It was maybe Origins. I can't remember. It was one of the two. But no, I think it was Gen Con. But we ended up getting a bundle, but we were still missing one of the pieces, so I'm trying to remedy that. But it actually comes with a lot of stuff. We didn't open. We only played the base game, and I'm kind of regretting that because it turns out a lot of the expansion stuff is just upgrades for the components in the base game.
Oh.
So we'll talk about that later.
But talking about base components, you have pretty standard dice. You do have these colored dice to represent the monsters every turn when you roll and put them on the board. You also have the corruption tiles, which are basic cardboard tiles. They're pretty standard fare. You also have the player boards. Now, the player boards, they're just a heavy cardstock. Nothing particular, but I don't really think you need any more than that. You don't put a lot of chits on or anything. The only thing is you have a life marker. Heart. Yeah, a little life marker that goes on that. I'm sad it's a kind of a generic heart, where like this one, it actually looks like a heart, but then you have like a generic heart. I wish they would have done something a little bit different, but other than that, then you have card quality. Card quality, there is no linen finish.
They are good thickness, though. These are good quality cards. Now, I will say, we're probably going to want to sleeve them because the white and black cards get shuffled a lot.
Right.
Because every time you hit a certain point in the game, you take two cards from the monster pile and you mix it in with the adventure deck, and you have to shuffle it every time.
Yeah. So then there's also the monster cubes. So you have the green cubes, then the black, and then the purple. There is slightly a size difference. The harder the monster. So greens can be defeated at 4. Trolls can be defeated at 5. And then
those are Alphon.
I don't know what those are. But they're really hard and they're really
They sound
big.
like really preppy monsters, though.
They do. And then you also have some gray cubes for some...
They're just icons for marking some of the
different
adventures.
locations, yeah. Because I will say, if they are very needed. But again, I wish there was something a little more...
Yeah.
So, and then you have the extra tokens over there.
These are textured. I'm not sure why they textured the cardboard, but not the cards. But yeah, they textured these. And then you also have the
Miniatures.
Miniatures.
No, I think the miniatures are really nice.
The only grievance I have with the miniatures is they all look so similar. So, like,
well, they're all dwarfs.
Well, I understand that, but because they're so similar and they're so small, I kept confusing which one I was on the board, and
that was pretty difficult.
You almost have to paint them, or they could have put like stands on the bottom of different colors, and then you could have known which one you were easily.
Yeah, I think these are going to have to be painted. I think we're going to have to get them to.
But even if they're painted, the pictures look so close when you look at the.
No, I mean, like
all
the
wearing
woman's
outfits
easy.
that are blue. Well, yeah, the one that's a different gender.
Well, the thing is, you paint them how you want, and we would just paint them different colors, and the bases would just be different colors. You paint the bases certain colors.
Because that was the biggest grievance. It was so hard to keep track of where mine was. Thankfully, mine was holding the beer, so I was able to okay, where's the drunk one? Okay, there he is.
But overall, the miniatures were really nice quality. So it's so funny because you have these really nice miniatures, but everything else was just okay. So I'm probably going to give this probably a 6 or 6.5. What are your thoughts?
I think with the base game it is, and here's the kicker is, we got this expansion as I mentioned, and I didn't get it out because at the gaming convention we were playing at, we didn't want to get all the stuff out and try to learn the game plus learn this expansion. But when I got the expansion out, it turns out most everything, first of all, you get a larger board that is exactly the same, it appears, but it's larger. It's larger.
What?
And then they have a second board, which is to hold your cards, and that's the only function that seems to be different than the base of this one. It's got the same dwarf council track, which is exactly the same as the track on there, but it has the spots for your cards. So they've increased the size of the board. They increased the size of the tiles to match the board. They've added a few. There is some.
Well, no, and the art's different on those. The arts are a lot better.
They're making it a lot pictured. They're not better. They added more dwarf miniatures. I'm not sure what those are for. Well, I guess they have more characters. There's more character boards in there. But they changed the wooden bits to be monster shaped. So you have trolls, orcs, and Alphon that are actually monster shaped.
Why didn't we play with the expansion?
I didn't know it was like that, or I would have gotten it out, because that would change my score tremendously on how it goes. And then the other thing was I left this behind, but we had nice dice to replace those really crummy white ones that have just numbers on them. But these have the fancy print on them, which would have made the quality of this go up at least a point.
Yeah,
So if you're going to get this game, if you can track it down still, I would get the expansion and as much of the upgrade stuff as you could get, because I'm assuming this was a Kickstarter, and these were probably Kickstarter.
Oh my goodness! Well, then I think that would significantly increase the quality of pieces. I think if you add all the expansion pieces, it's the very least probably 7.5, maybe 8.
I'm probably a 7.5. I think I'm going from a 6.5 to a 7.5 because of the once you add the bits on. But if you're just getting the base game by itself,
it's probably 6.5.
Probably 6.5. But I really wish we would have played with the bits now, and I certainly want to as well. The other thing is it's also got a whole bunch more cards, and it has numbers on the back, which is interesting. So I'm curious what that means, because the game we played didn't require numbers to be on the back.
Yeah. So now that we discussed quality pieces, moving into theme. So you are a dwarven nation, and you're trying to defend against the horde of different monsters that are coming through. And if you're not careful, they'll begin corrupting your land and going into the capital city. And if they do that, doom will come upon your land.
Now, we're not familiar with the book that this is based upon.
No, we aren't.
But when we bought this, it came with also a little, I guess you call it graphic novel.
Oh, now I want to read it.
Yeah, of the story. And then there's an art book that was also part of it. So again, this looks like Kickstarter add-on type stuff that you would get. So you can read some of the backstory and see some of the beautiful art on this. And then it also has another expansion, the deck of cards to add. So we got a lot more stuff to explore in this game still. But yeah, thematically, I think the fact that this is based on a story is really cool, and there's a lot of flavor in the cards.
Well, and the thing is, reality is you definitely feel like you're dwarves defending your nation against a horde, and if you're not careful, I mean, we made a choice to finish a quest, but in so doing, corruption spread like crazy because of the way the corruption mechanism works, which we'll discuss more. I mean, you could feel it. You were like, "Oh crap, that was close," because they almost made it to our city.
Well,
and,
yeah, but I mean, what was odd? Well, I mean, if they make it to your city, it's not the end of the game.
No, it's not. But still, it was just like heart wrenching because you want to defend your capital.
Yeah, I mean, it felt like at the beginning, it felt like this is easy. I mean, we were just marching everywhere, and it's like this is ridiculously easy. What is it with all this? Because it talked in the book about this whole corruption and how it spreads, and it's like we didn't have any corruption for the longest time in the game, and then suddenly, boom, and it just went everywhere. And it was like, oh, this is what I was expecting to see the whole time, and that felt really cool.
Well, I mean, I think the thing is because before, like at the beginning of the game, we were very much, okay, keep the monsters low, but the time was running out, and so we had to shift gears from keeping the monsters then to actually finishing the quests. But in so doing, we let a lot of our areas get corrupted. And so it's kind of a very interesting, you want to make sure that the monster population stays low, but in that same breath, you've got to complete the quest in the amount of time given to you. So it's just, there is a lot of thought to it. I really enjoyed this theme. Theme-wise, I'll probably give this an 8. What about you?
Well, one of the things I really liked about this was, with the characters, they weren't that different, but because of their abilities, it felt like they were significantly different. I mean, the characters, they all have just basic stats, and their health was pretty much the same. There was the couple that were higher by 1 point, but the number of dice you got for the different abilities were not that different. But because of how you had to use your abilities, this is one of the few games I've seen where the differentiation was that significant in how you played your character. Mm-hmm. Because, especially with like mine, because the only one that could walk on corruption without taking damage. Because if you take damage, this game ends if you die, if anybody dies. So it's the fact that
and health was kind of hard to come by.
Everybody's character had their own abilities that set them apart, which I thought was really a cool thing. Even though they didn't feel like, I mean, if you looked at the character sheets, it's like, oh, this is a very minor thing that's different, but yet it had played a major role in the game.
Yeah.
So I liked the feel of the game. I felt at first I didn't think I did. When we started playing it, I'm like, this is kind of nothing's happening. It felt like there should be more to it, and I felt like we played it at a lower setting than we should have. And then at the end, we won at the very last turn. I mean, it was that close. So
I think you have to make a decision. Do you finish the quest quickly and end up losing control of some of your land, or do you end up managing it but then running out of time? So it's just very difficult.
Yeah. So given the fact that there is such a backstory with this game, and there is the flavor and the art on the cards. We didn't talk about the art of the cards really, but the art is really pretty. I'm probably at an 8.5 on it, is where I'm at. Mm-hmm. It's not that different than yours, but I think that there's enough with the art and the story and the feel of how it just spread.
Yeah. So, totally get that. So moving on to rules. You read the rules.
The game is pretty simple. There's not a whole lot to it. I mean, the rule book is 10 pages long, if you count the back cover, 12.
Yeah.
But, it's most of it is just talking about, first setup. First setup is 5 of the pages. So half your book is setup, and the other half is just the play. But it's each turn, how many actions you get, and all of that. There's not a lot to this game, but as far as the actions, and I'm not a co-op fan, so when I got this out, I was like, oh, it's a co-op. That was my first thought. I was like, oh, great, it's a co-op, because I did not expect it to be a co-op. So I was pretty bummed, but as we started playing it, it started feeling better. But the rule book itself, the way it's written, it has the cards and symbols on the back, and it does explain everything, all the icons that they have and what they mean. I think it's probably about an 8. I don't think it's bad. I think it's pretty good. And it's hard to screw this up because it's such a simple game.
Yeah.
you know, the most of the time spent in the book is on the spread, because that's the most complex piece of this game.
Yeah, it is. All right, so moving on to gameplay. So the gameplay is actually pretty straightforward. Every turn, you move the hero token up one, and depending on the symbol, you complete that action. So this action is that you roll the monster dice, and depending on what's on the monster dice, you play them on the area that it says. So this says 5.
So you would, in that case, you rolled 2 green, so they would go to where the Roman numeral 5 is spawned, right here.
Absolutely. So, bam, done. All right, and then you actually take you have 2 actions that you can take. So any of those actions consist of fulfilling a quest, and then or filling a mission.
Either way, you've got 3 adventures, or 3 of the cards from the adventure deck.
Yeah, adventure deck, yeah. So
but
3
it
adventures.
Could be adventures or it could be monsters, because these get added to the deck
over time. So you can do adventure / monster hunting, and that requires you to be at different locations or completing different quests or tasks that you have to do. Or like one was like 2 people meet at this one location and do a craft roll. Or there could be one that you went to a location and you succeeded so many craft rolls, or there would be travel from here to here. So there's different things that consists of.
Yeah.
Then you actually have the quest card. So that's one action, is completing an adventure card. Then the another action is to complete the actual quest card. And the quest card could be defeat 3 monsters in 1 turn, or complete, one was to go all the way up on the
Dwarf Council.
Yeah, the council track.
And this is how you win the game. If you play through however many cards you have in the deck, there's A, B, and C. And there's 1 B and there's 1 C in effect. There's more than 1 C, but there's only one that meets the criteria that you're going to find when you start the game. So you're going to play all the A's, 1 B, and 1 C. And if you do that successfully, you win the game.
Yeah.
So that's the ultimate goal. But if you can't ignore everything else, because you won't win if you just focus strictly on this, most likely. We didn't try that, so I can't say for sure. But most likely you're not going to win if you focus strictly on just completing quests.
Well, because you need equipment cards you need equipment cards, and you need to do certain things, and you have to manage the monsters. Okay, so then the next thing, obviously, is the equipment cards. You get those by completing different actions. And then you can send a letter to the council. So basically you can update them or convince them to be more on your side. The more you go further up the track, you have different special ability that becomes active that we found very, very useful, and I thought maybe we should have used earlier in the game. So that was actually really cool. At the very end, you can roll a craft die to possibly get an equipment weapon, which I think it would be far easier than trying to complete some of these quests that give you equipment.
Yeah.
And then the other ones, you can re-roll a die, or you can increase your thing by 1, or when a threat cards come out, you get a health, which is one of the very few ways you can get health. So I think there are definitely benefits to keeping that track. And then the other action would be...
Well, but it's a tug of war, because this track is continuously getting pulled the other direction.
Correct.
As you move along the time track. So if you don't continuously send letters throughout the game to the council, you're going to end up suffering penalties, because it goes to the other side. Correct. And it's basically got the net negative effect of every one of those positive effects you have. So you lose health whenever these monsters come up, and you lose things as you go down the track. So it's basically, you want to keep writing letters as a maintenance system and try to keep yourself at least net neutral in the game.
And I think we did that very successfully. But I think we should have kept it more on the positive side, because there were several incidences where...
Well, and I think that's, again, your character is one of their special abilities. There's actually even a more specialized one than you were.
Well, I just re-roll craft.
Yeah, we played a 4-player game, and there's 5 dwarves in the game. And the one we left out was the one that was specialized in writing the council. Your character was our best option for writing the council.
Yeah, which I totally did. That was kind of my job. Like, I had a job, and that was to do that. So overall, there's a lot of cool things that you can... I think that covers all the actions you can... Oh, and the actual battling. So you could end up... If you're miniature, you are actually in the location to battle, then you can roll your battle die, which is basically you roll 3 dice if your attack is 3 based on the board. And then you roll that, and so goblins can be defeated at a 4 or above, so you roll. So I have a 5 and 2 2s. So I only destroy one of these goblins and put them back on the board. So that is another action. Movement is another action that you can do. So you roll. So if my movement is 2, I would roll 2 dice. I'm actually going to take the higher of the 2 dice. So I got a 5 and a 6. So I would move 6. So I can move up to 6 across the board. So I think that covers actually all the actions you can take. Right. So, and the thing is there's a lot to do. It got pretty, like there were several times that we had to choose what's the best route as a team. What are we going to do? How do we, and then if you get equipment, you can give it to any of the party. So I thought that was interesting. So you could really synchronize and.
But we left out the most interesting thing, which is the spread. So when we talked earlier, we talked about putting 2 of these out. Well, these are going to accumulate as you move.
If so you keep rolling.
You keep rolling, and they're all spawning in that same location.
All right, so now that we have 6, so it actually triggers at 5, so we'll just put pretending to have 6. All right, so we triggered at 5, and so then we place this. So this is a brown arrow, so we're going to place it toward the brown arrow, right? And so we're going to send a black and green, purple that way. Then we're going to send 2 green, but we can't.
Because they go off the board, so they stay where they are, and then everything moves the path that's left, goes to the path of brown. So now these are sitting there, so the next time something spawns here, it doesn't stay there. It automatically moves down the trail.
Right.
So if it hits another one and it runs into 4 there, it's going to spawn another...
Yeah.
It's going to spawn another path.
And there were times that because of this, there were 5 that went straight forward, which then corrupted again. And then because of that, it moved again, and there was 5.
And it corrupted again, because in this case, there's still these 2 here. So if these move this direction, and you get 4 more there, or 3 more there, it's going to hit 5. It's going to corrupt there, too. So this corruption, just
can
go really fast.
Quick.
It can... If you don't keep the monsters in check...
Yeah, depending on what you draw, I mean, it can be devastating.
Oh, yes. And these are all mixed face down normally in the game, so you don't know what you're getting. So it can really speed up. I mean, when we started, the first half of the game, we had no corruption. We were just killing the monsters, but we were not getting very far on these quests. So we started focusing more on the quests, and the monsters started pooling, and that's when we started seeing the corruption spread. And then that was crazy when it started, because it started out, okay, there's a little bit here. That's no big deal.
The thing. And the thing is when the corruption spread, you have way more places that you have to defend against.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like move, battle, move, battle, move, battle, versus where before it was like, oh, it's all starting at 5. Because at the very beginning, we had 1 person at 4, 1 person at 5, 1 person at 1, and then I was on 2, but I was in a very big battle. And so, we maintained the numbers, but we weren't getting quests done because, we had to go in the middle of the board multiple times.
Yeah.
So it was just very, but then, because then 1 got kind of taken over, and then the person who was kind of guarding 1, he had to keep moving, and so he couldn't kill as many. And so it just kept, ended up breeding. So I thought that was just a very intriguing component of, you really have to make choices and try to do the best that you can.
The thing is all of the arrows are positioned, so it's in essence like a drain system. All of the arrows are positioned such that they're all going to lead to the center, Blackendale. And once they reach there,
which is the capital,
any creatures that reach here fall off and go back to the start, but it moves the doom track closer, and each time, you're losing turns off this track.
And you needed every single one of them turns.
Yeah, and the other thing is the corruption creates a barrier that most of the dwarves, my character that I played actually could walk on it without penalty, but any other dwarves that cross over one of the corrupted territories, they either lose a life or they move the doom token closer. So you have to make the decision, are you going to take that hit on the life, which there are ways to heal. And that was, we never really faced a severe problem with that, but you got down to 1 health at one point. But yeah, apart from that, if any of the creatures die, or the Doom token ever reaches, or your hero reaches the Doom token, if you reach the same space, you lose the game.
Yeah, so it was very tricksy.
Yeah, and it first, it didn't feel like we were at any risk of losing this. We were just picking things off left and right. When we started focusing on these, we started getting some bad rolls occasionally, but not too many. We did pretty well in our rolls, but it still felt like we were in no threat. And then suddenly, in the last part of the game, it just ramped up, and we had to trail all the way of corruption all the way down to the center point And we were having to fend them off because if the Doom token moved one tick up, we would have lost the game.
Right. So, give it a score. So, I want to point this out. This is a co-op, and Randy sounds excited about it. What would you score this co-op?
Well, this is a hard one because, first of all, like you said, I don't like co-ops. Secondly, it didn't feel like it was a threat for half the game. And
but if it ramped up any,
I
I
know.
Lost.
But there's multiple settings on this game. There's I think 5 different difficulty levels, and we played at level 2, which was there's the beginner, and then there's the normal, and then there's like 2 or 3 above that. We played at normal mode, and we ended up winning on the very last turn. And so but for the first half of the game, it didn't feel like we were at any risk of losing this game. And so it's kind of hard to judge from that. Plus, there's so much expansion material we haven't addressed yet. So I'm eager to see what that does. I still think it felt like it was missing something. It didn't feel bad, though. I enjoyed, as far as co-ops go, I enjoyed this one way more than most co-ops.
Give it a score.
I'm getting to it.
I'm anxious.
I'm probably a 7 on it, is where I think I'm at right now. I really like the spread of the corruption. I think that was a cool
mechanism. But if it
mechanism.
spread it anymore, we would have
lost.
lost.
I'm saying the mechanism was a cool system.
No, the mechanism was a really cool system.
It was a really neat idea. I've not seen that in any co-op games, and it didn't feel like. A lot of the reasons I don't like co-op games is it feels like you shuffle a deck and you're playing the deck and you're either going to win or lose. Same reason I absolutely hate the Pandemic, because you're going to lose based upon the sequence of the deck. In this case, it wasn't the sequence of the deck so much as which tokens you drew from a pile and
the dice that you rolled.
And the dice you rolled. So there's more to it than just you could have flipped the deck over and saw if you won or lost the game, and you wasted your time if you played for the game. That's the problem I have with Pandemic. This one felt like you had a chance, and your decisions strategically could benefit you. This. So it felt more like you were actually you had the possibility of winning or losing no matter what.
Yeah.
So I think I'm at a 7 on this right now, and it could get better with the expansions adding more to it. It didn't look like that. It didn't look like the one expansion added a whole lot other than nicer pieces, except for it added more cards, which the more cards is automatically going to make it you kind of play it more to see how much it really adds. But then we also have another deck of cards here, so and then there's the expansion we're missing. So
yeah. Okay. For me, I think I'm with you on a 7. I think it was a little good co-op. I think that this definitely fills a niche because oftentimes I typically like co-ops if they're good because I actually like working as a team versus going after each other. So that's something I like to be able to build really, really well. So I do like that piece of it, and I do think it was a really cool, dwarven theme. I wish I knew more of the backstory. I feel like I could have got into it more, but I think I agree with you with 7. Mechanically wise, I think it was actually pretty good. I think it was spot on difficulty because if we had made one mistake, we would have lost. But we played to the best of our ability. And I also think with our group, I think it was really appreciated. I'm good with the 7.
Yeah.
So would I play this again? Yeah, I think I would. So, yeah, pretty good. So, Well, thank you guys so much for joining us. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button, and we'll catch you guys later. Bye.